One of the key things that I love about Twilio is we put our heart and soul into the developer experience. It's about engagement in the community. It's about, finding like a simple solution to answering your question. Like, I'm sure if you could kind of come up with a random thing that you want to do with Twilio, there's probably a developer evangelist that's written a blog post about it, or somebody in our community that's written a blog post about it. And you would just follow what they did and go and grab a quick deploy app and away you go, right? Like, that's the beauty of the developer experience and really building something out that's kind of fun, interesting, but it's also like there and available for developers.
Everyone, welcome to the Tech Seeking Human podcast, and I'm really excited to have Vanessa Thompson with me from Twilio, who is a Senior Director of Product Marketing. She happens to have an accent, and I personally love people with accents. Vanessa, how are you?
I'm good,
I told you it was going to be a fun start.
You're really killing me over
What's
here.
your accent? Come on.
Yeah. Usually I'm the only one with an accent, but I'm from New Zealand originally, so we'll just kind of leave our beef at the door and we can just get over that really quickly.
Vanessa, what are you doing? This is a B2B technology podcast. It's supposed to be dead serious. You're not allowed to get on here and laugh and have a good time. And I said to you, it'd be fun if we laughed from the start, but I didn't expect you to do it in the first 3 seconds.
I'm sorry about that. We'll keep it all.
Okay, can we be serious for a second? Right. Yeah, let's be serious for a second. So you're a New Zealander living in San Francisco. Has your your Prime Minister, rung you and asked you to come home yet from Cindy? San Francisco, like our Prime Minister in Australia did in the middle of COVID?
No.
She didn't?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, let's not go there because it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
We all got asked to come home.
You did?
Australians got asked to come home by the Prime Minister. Yeah, in the middle of COVID, like 3 months in, I was over in the US and they said, if you're coming, you need to come home now. And it was like your dad going, I'm sick of you, but out there for that long, get home now, immediately.
Yeah, that didn't happen. So all that happened, I will tell you though, because now I'm in it, right? So but the Deputy Prime Minister at the beginning of COVID said, if you're out in New Zealand, you should probably go home because there's going to be not a huge amount of chances for you to get home. And he was kind of right. And then he became the not Deputy Prime Minister anymore. And so like everybody's like, told you so, because then they turned on MIQ and nobody could go home because that was a huge palaver. There you go. But the borders are open now, so that's good. Yay, tourism. Yep.
Yeah, we're all good. We've all moved on. So here we are now. Let's reintroduce. No, I'm only kidding. Vanessa, you're a Senior Director at Twilio. I've personally been really interested in you folks at Twilio. I think you're got a really quirky thing going on. The more I start to follow the company and I see their events and coffee cups turn up at my house with Twilio on it, and I've got a book over my shoulder from your CEO, the more I look at the company, the more I go, you guys are kind of interesting. You've really got this developer community. Seems like you're having a hell of a lot of fun going on, but you joined with like 800 people. Has it always been this way?
Yeah, it's such an interesting place to be. So I first got introduced to Twilio in like 2012 at a tech event in the US called Enterprise Connect. It's like I guess back then it was like this dodgy communications technology event, and it was all about, unified communications and how to do VoIP this and all of that kind of stuff. And so there was these people called Twilio, and they were at the event. They had like a little as booth, and I was meeting with some of the Twilio team then, and it was back then they were the only people who had built APIs on top of this like horrible like communications tech stack. And I just thought at the time, this is super interesting. Funnily enough, I met the only other Kiwi that was working at Twilio at the time and was like, hey, we should know each other. And so we first met back then. But I've been following the company ever since 2012, since I met them all the way back then. And I eventually joined with this friend of mine in 2018 and came into the company. But, really like blossomed because of the fact that they started with developers. Like they were at this Enterprise Connect event because it was all about communications technology, but that wasn't where all of their main base of developers were. These are web developers that have been trying to build communications into their apps for the longest time, and they didn't have $3 million, and they didn't have the ability to go and code against some like soap based like technology that all of the they didn't have a bunch of money to like build against Cisco's APIs at the time because they were just really hard to work with. And so this was just a really exciting new avenue for them to explore, and it really started small and just kept building. So yeah.
Is the company still, it's such an interesting thing. So they developed a solution, they found a gap in the market, they developed it. Jeff Lawson is the CEO. I think I'm going to look over my shoulder, but I think I got that right. Tell me if I got that wrong. But
Yeah,
fascinating
that's right.
story, a CEO that codes. I love stories
Yeah.
where the executives or the original team, they think through a gap in the market. They focus on developers. A lot of companies in the end, they end up going, hey, we're going to go where some of the dollars are. We're going to go, big operations teams, cloud engineering teams, CIO, CTO. You guys have stayed core to developers, and developers sort of rule the world now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, developers are where we started and where we'll continue to go, because I think one of the key things that I love about Twilio is we put our heart and soul into the developer experience. And it's not just about like the way that you've built your product from the beginning. I talked a little bit about, the fact that we built APIs, but we built communications in the cloud. It wasn't even in the cloud before. So we not only like brought it to the cloud, we put APIs that are really beautiful on top of it. And the developer experience isn't just about the code, it's about how you get to the code and how you learn about using the API itself, right? So it's about documentation, it's about engagement in the community, it's about, finding like a simple solution to answering your question. Like, I'm sure if you could kind of come up with a random thing that you want to do with Twilio, there's probably a developer evangelist that's written a blog post about it, or somebody in our community that's written a blog post about it, and you would just follow what they did and go and grab a quick deploy app and away you go, right? Like that's the beauty of the developer experience and really building something out that's kind of fun, interesting, but it's also like there and available for developers.
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar with the developer community, and you know it better than I do, but from what I see, it's people that genuinely want to help other people build things. So they, like you said, they write blog posts to share their experiences. It sort of almost feels open source, but obviously, naturally, you have to have commercial entities in there as well. It just sort of feels like like to your point, there is this community, there's sort of this ethos where it's like, I want to help lift other people up and help them work on solutions and come up with innovative ideas. And then naturally across companies, people are sharing really kind of cool ideas on solving problems.
There's a really interesting split too, though, right? So there's the sort of evangelist kind of people. So they're the like hobbyist but really extra, so they want to code something because it's fun, and like they want to get they want to get their hands on keyboard, and they're like, oh, that looks really super cool, I wonder if I can do this and make myself a IoT garage door opener or something, and they'll go in and try and figure out how to do that. There's plenty of developers that did that. So they're the hobbyist like extra, but then there's also a whole bunch of vocational developers that we've worked with at Twilio too. And we'll do like enterprise hackathons and things like that, where we'll bring a bunch of people that are developers inside a company. And maybe they're called engineers, maybe they're called technical program managers, maybe they're called something else, not quite a developer. But we'll bring them all together and they can hack around and do something in a couple of days, facilitated by some of our team as well. And so we have like this really amazing set of teams that kind of can come together and build stuff and actually learn new skills and keep fresh and keep current. Like when, maybe that's not what they code every day for work, right? Like they might work on a specific set of apps or just a specific problem, but we can kind of get in the way of that and start to really kind of push the boundaries of what they can create and what they can actually build. Because if they can imagine something that's going to work for their business, like they can probably build something like that with Twilio.
Have you ever thought about, because I love, like, enterprise hackathons just sound like fun. And when I say Twilio's event, it just looked like fun. It looked like people are having a good time. And it reminded me a little bit of, I've recently been thinking about how happy are companies? Like, if you could
Mm.
genuinely summarize a happiness of a company, which departments are the happiest? And I started thinking through what makes you happy within what it is that you do. Okay, so if I continue to learn, does that make me happy? And I've sort of come to the conclusion. It's like when you're at school, you're learning all this stuff, and you seem happy. Developers are continually learning. I think people within
Mm.
marketing are continually learning, and then there are other departments that aren't. And I just think there's naturally this kind of cool. I don't know. It just is that you're riding this wave of, like, you're marketing to developers that seemingly see happy because they're learning all these new things, and it just seems exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely super exciting because, like, I actually don't think that like it's by department. I think the entire company is growing as one kind of in unison, right? So, and there's a few things going on which make it kind of pretty interesting. The first one is that, like, developers come to us and get really excited and want to build more stuff. So the people that are closest to them, like, get the energy, right? And then everyone else that's at the company, like, accounting and finance and any of this operations team and that those kind of teams are like, gosh, how do we support, like, making sure that we can keep these developers and our big enterprise customers happy? And so I think, like, you know we're all going through this growth mindset as, like, an entire organization and really pushing, like, the company forward. And it's really interesting to kind of watch the entire, like, group of people that we work with every day, like, all kind of push forward for the same goal. And it's really, like, you said this earlier about Jeff and how he's a developer and he likes to get his hands on the keyboard. And I think part of it is just the culture that he's built at the company. And he's kind of really helped push us through this growth mindset. And we have something called the Twilio magic values. So, like, every company has, like, a mission and values and those kinds of things. Well, we have some pretty interesting values. Like, one is be an owner. So that kind of talks to the growth mindset. So everyone in any function can be an owner and see, like, gosh, there's a gap here. I'm going to go figure out, like, how to solve that. Everyone needs to be curious. And so, like, first maybe you've identified the gap, or, like, you're trying to understand so why someone's doing something in a way that they are, those kinds of things. That's one of our values as well. One of our values is being a builder, and so that talks to, like, the growth mindset explicitly. All right, but I think it's a pretty important and interesting value. And so there's these Twilio magic values are just part of, like, building the growth mindset for us all as an entire company and kind of growing and moving, like, as a whole team together as one.
This is the second time I've had a podcast recording with someone from Twilio, and they've both brought up the sort of the values of the company or the mission,
Yeah.
and that to me suggests that it's strong. If people
Yeah,
are
it's pretty strong.
genuinely
Yeah.
believe it and they happen to bring it up only 10 minutes into a conversation with someone externally, it means that it
Yeah.
works. Why is it working? Is it believable? Are you injected with it when you first start and you're like, thou shall always talk about our values 11 minutes into a podcast?
Well, I think most of it is the company's grown so fast that there's one dynamic is that we've outgrown things that don't serve us, because when I joined, the company was 800 people and it's now, like, 10x that, right? And so, like, the 800 people company processes don't really work for the 8,000. And so, like, one aspect is you got to grow out of it, but you got to create something lightweight and for people to get along with. So there's that aspect. And then the other aspect is, like, we see people live the values pretty regularly because we have to. Because if you don't, then we're going to be, like, running over the top of each other. And so I think that element of it is kind of the piece where, they're just relatable and practical enough for people to just go, gosh, like, they're all like doing words as well, and so like they're pretty like easy to live through. We had an older value. It's not part of our kind of quadrant model anymore, but I really liked it, which was no shenanigans. It's still kind of part of our like mantra as a company, and I just really liked it as somebody that works in the marketing department, because to me, no shenanigans was like, we're going to put all of our pricing on our website, and we're going to like make sure that we don't make stuff up, and we're going to, in our marketing, we're going to make sure that we're, telling the truth, but we're also like, being critical of ourselves and making sure that we're not doing shenanigans internally and like holding information from different teams and that kind of thing. So, I think it's definitely evolved over time as we've grown, but like that was one of my previous favorites too.
Yeah, no shenanigans is like just to me, I didn't get it at first. I thought it might have been like, don't drink all the champagne at first thing on the Friday morning, give everyone else a go. And then just don't run around like a wild thing. But it genuinely probably means like just be authentic, like be sensible and act like an adult. Like, and I like the authenticity of like, just put the pricing on the website. I worked previously with a company and they were like, can't put the pricing on the website. And I go, why not? And they go, because we don't want people to know the pricing. And I go, but people want to know the pricing. And I go, yeah, we don't want to tell them. We want them to contact us. And I go, why are we being annoying? I go, because the top search volume for our company is company pricing. So they're looking for it. They can't find it. And they'll just go and get it from someone who can give them the pricing because they can't be bothered. And you're marketing to developers. That's really hard. You've got to give them what they want. And to your point, no shenanigans. Don't try and bullcrap them.
Yeah, exactly. And the other fun thing about marketing to developers is they will call BS like right away. Like if you launch a product that is not ready for prime time and you say, sign up here and like download this app or whatever, and it doesn't work for them, you will be like ranking first on Hacker News, and you will be eviscerated because of the fact that, we told you could sign up for something and you couldn't. So it's like developer marketing rule number one, like don't say something that you can't deliver on.
Have you lived through this, or is this just the fear that is encouraging you to maintain a nice customer experience?
Well, I haven't lived through it. I've lived through this is really awesome ranked number one on Hacker News. I can't believe I can do that when we launched the Super Sim. And it was a pretty, I guess you could say, revolutionary. That's like a bad marketing word, but you could sort of see like how excited people were when we started with the Super Sim, because we were giving out physical SIM cards and people were like, oh my gosh, I can code against the SIM card. This is wild. Like, let me put it in my device and see what I can do. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. What were they doing?
A whole bunch of stuff. Like, you have scooters in Sydney, right? Like all the scooter micromobility companies.
Vanessa, I'm in Melbourne. I just want to let you in on a little news flash. That's sort of the most important city right? in Australia. Yeah.
It's a real city?
Like I know you're Canadian and everything, but yeah. No. Okay. Geography. Yeah, okay. Keep going. I'm not editing this at all. I'm deeply offended that you said I was in Sydney. And yes, I have scooters. And guess what? During the pandemic, no, don't apologize. I'm only stirring you. In the pandemic, I bought a whole heap of Lime scooters that were destined for San Francisco. But because of COVID, they were just sitting there. So I bought a stack of them and brought them back to Melbourne. Now they sit in my garage and I scoot around all the time. But yes, now that you offended me by saying Sydney, can you please tell me about the story about the scooters?
So if you deconstruct one of those Lime scooters in your garage, you will find that there's like a black box on the front of it, right? If you pull that off, that's like the connectivity box. If you pull that off and you like unscrew it or whatever, and you like open it up, you will probably find a Twilio SIM card in there.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I'm gonna pull it apart. I'm going to pull it apart.
Okay, so there's a box on the front, right? The box on the front,
Yeah.
it's going to be like the little connectivity box. So they manufacture like that separate to the actual scooter part, right? Because the thing with those devices is like, how do you tell one between another when you're manufacturing like thousands and thousands of devices? So
Ah.
unless you want to put a unique identifier on every single like scooter that they're manufacturing, like they would have to like change the entire like manufacturing process just to like change one element of it. So what they do is they manufacture a whole bunch of scooters that are exactly the same, and then they put this little connectivity box on the front. And the connectivity box is going to have a way to add a unique identifier. Then you can do that like through the actual hardware in the connectivity box, or you can actually do it through like a little like certificate that you would put on the SIM card itself, to attribute like a different unique identifier for each device. So that's how you would know, like on the app, well, there's a Lime scooter on, what is it
Track your
called? Flinders
scooter.
Station or whatever, versus like somewhere else.
Oh, you did it. You mentioned something
I did
in
what?
Melbourne, just like off the cuff. It's
I have been
Flinders.
there.
Yep. Yeah, you did it.
Well, it's Flinders,
Yeah,
right?
really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it
I used to
Flinders
work at
Street
ANZ
Station or is it
Bank,
Flinders
and so I
Station?
did have to go to Melbourne sometimes.
You know what's funny about ANZ Bank is in
Well,
America, I don't know if you know this, but they'll say like when I was at this other company, ANZ Bank won an award, and they go, and the award for
oh.
blah blah goes to ANZ Bank, and I go, ANZ? Who's the ANZ Bank?
ANZ, yeah.
That's weird. And then I looked at the
Yeah,
logo and I
yeah.
went, yeah, no, that's ANZ. I didn't know that with the SIM card, so that means my
Hmm.
scooter is trackable.
Yeah,
I
all your
can
scooters are
like because they
trackable.
probably, I mean, it's yeah, but mine's not Lime anymore, right? So like I got it, and it's not it's a Lime branded scooter, but clearly they were like, we can't have these just sitting here, and so I
Mm.
brought it home, and so I can track it with my app through Segway because it's actually a Segway scooter. But that means
Oh, okay.
if there's a SIM card in there, but I'm
There
still going
might
to
be.
pull it
So, like,
apart. And if
check
I
if,
don't,
yeah. So just check, sorry, just check if there's like that box thing on the front. And if there is
yeah, okay.
still,
Well, I'll
like,
just keep pulling it
rip
all
it off.
apart, and then I'll send you a bill. I'm going to pull it
Yeah,
all
sounds
apart, and
good.
if I don't find a SIM card, I'm going to send a bill. Just send me your address afterwards, so I know who to invoice. Tell
Uh-huh.
me some other cool stories. Tell me some other cool stories of like, what are your favorite stories when it comes to people that are developing interesting initiatives with Twilio?
There's like companies that have done really cool things. And then,
Yeah.
because I'm I'm like a regular judge of the enterprise hackathons. I see some of these
Oh,
just crazy things, but also really simple things that companies are building. So I'll tell you a couple of short stories from the hackathon just because they're really fun.
you know,
And because maybe people in the
everyone
audience
knows.
will go like, I have this simple problem. I need to build a hack, right? So there was this insurance
Yeah, and now
company.
you also know. Hey, Vanessa,
Yeah.
hang on.
What?
Now everyone knows who to bribe. They know who to bribe in your enterprise hackathon because you said you're one of the
Oh,
judges, right? So
yeah.
if there's only
I
two or three
mean,
judges. If you get bribed ahead of time, they're going to win, right? So if anyone wants to bribe Vanessa, you now know this is how you do it. All right, now tell us the story. Sorry for interrupting
okay,
with my
yeah.
childish humor.
Signed an NDA, no bribery allowed, whatever. Okay, so
Yeah.
now I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so there's this insurance
Vanessa
company, and
Thompson, care of
they,
New Zealand,
yeah, correct, yep.
for an
So
embassy in San Francisco. I'm sure it'll get to her.
we don't have an embassy in San Francisco, so that's anyway.
New Zealand doesn't.
Not in San Francisco.
Do you have one in America?
Yeah, in LA.
I know this is so silly, but the Australian government. I had to renew my passport, and I was in Boston, and they don't have an Australian embassy in Boston. It's in New York, right? So this guy rings me, and he goes, and my wife said, "Look, the guy Paul from the Australian government might ring you," and he goes, "I went okay," and all of a sudden I get this call, "Hey Dave, it's this is Paul from the Australian embassy." I'm like, "Oh shit," and he goes, "What's your birthday? What's your daughter's birthday?" And I go, "Which one?" And he goes, "Your youngest child, Elise." And he was all serious. And I go, 18th of the 4th, and gave the year. And he goes, correct. Your wife didn't think you would get it correct. And if you didn't, I wouldn't be issuing you a passport. And then he started laughing. He goes, I'm only kidding, mate. How you doing? See, we can talk
I
to
was
the Australian
like,
government. They're good
did you
people.
seriously just get socially engineered? You could
I
have.
did. By the Australian government.
Man.
I know I
Oh,
could
well.
have, and I didn't. No, I probably shouldn't have given away.
Well,
details.
I will just
So,
give a
go,
plug
let's
for
be
the New
serious.
Zealand. Wait, I will give a plug for the New Zealand Passport
Okay.
Department because I had to renew my passport actually in 2020, and I went online. I did absolutely everything online, including taking a photo with my camera on my laptop, and they just did some AI and said like, yes, that's the right kind of photo. I paid the money and it got to me in 6 days, not 6 business days, 6 days. And it got sent to me from the London office and it arrived to me in a DHL bag. And I was like, fantastic. Good job, New Zealand Passport Office. So there you go. Good story.
That is very good.
Nobody had to call me.
I mean, they're only issuing what? It's what, 11 passports a year? I mean, it's not. We're not talking like extreme scale.
But to
here.
be fair, it was in 2020.
personalisation.
It was in 2020 during COVID. So props to them. Good job, New Zealand.
That is very good, actually. To think complete digital online photo and passport delivered, it's actually pretty impressive. Doesn't surprise me.
Okay. I'm going to go back to
let's go back to the task at hand, which we're still trying to solve. Which is the Twilio examples, your favorite stories. Let's do this.
My favorite stories.
We can be serious.
So I have so many stories, but I think there's just a couple that come to mind because they're really interesting. So, and for different reasons. So this one insurance company was saying, it was the guys from the IT help desk, and they were like, they came to the hackathon. They wanted to learn about how to use Twilio because their employees are their customers. Like that's who they have to build for. They like wanted to do something better than what they had. So they had a bunch of apps that they already used for like ticketing and all of that kind of thing. Their biggest problem was that people were calling in, and this is a huge insurance company with like thousands of employees, and people were calling in to the service desk to see like, what updates were coming and like, things were down or whatever. So if something wasn't working, they had no way to like tell everybody something wasn't working. And so everybody had to call in, and then they had these help desk agents just like pick up the phone. So it was like literally a call center for the IT help desk. So that's how many employees they had. So you can kind of understand the volume here. And they built something in a day, which was like a super simple, like voice-based IVR system, like an interactive voice response. So if you've ever like, I don't know, called a bank or a phone company or something, I don't know, Optus was the worst when I was there. So like, let's pick on them. So like, press 1 for billing and 2 for, to speak to an agent or associate or whatever. So like, that's what we call a like a dial tone multi-frequency, like interactive voice response system. These guys built like a, hey, I want to see my bill, or I want to do like that. So that's a conversational AI based one. In one day, these guys built this IVR that was able to tell people commands. So they would call in and they would say, hi everyone, like Microsoft Office is getting reset on blah day, and I don't know, your phone system is going to be down in so-and-so office between these hours, and, whatever, like to do basically all of the alerts. And it like turned it on for like a really small set of their employees, and it diverted almost 50% of the calls that they had going into their little internal help desk in those first few days. And they were like, oh my goodness, this is wild. Like we had no idea that we were going to build something so basic and so simple, and it was going to be able to divert the calls like that. And so like within 2 days, they were able to build something that's super usable and that helps people understand what was going on in their business. And it was just so simple. And they were just, I guess the reason why I really like the story is because they were just so pumped. This was just like IT guys that had never done anything like remotely this quickly before. They really just like deployed the systems that they got told to deploy, and they never really kind of pushed the boundaries of what they could do. And this was just such a small change that had such a massive impact for them. And it was really simple. So they just used Twilio Voice and a tool that we have called Studio, which is like a low code thing where you just drag and drop, um, uh, in a visual workflow builder, let's say, and you can just say like, okay, well, here's the tree, and you just build it out yourself. And when you say this, it will go to here, and when you say that, it will go to here, and you just build the tree out, and then write a little bit of connecting, and then you can turn it on and call the phone number and see if it works. It's pretty cool.
That's remarkable because, that's a really big change for a team. I can imagine they're probably sitting around at lunch going, geez, I'm getting sick of all these phone calls. I wish if we didn't answer so many calls, maybe we could do a job. And then quite quickly they've turned it around, like in a couple of days. And then you were talking drag and drop, no code. Like, is Twilio that easy to use? Is it like you don't really need to be a coder to figure it out? You can still, drag things around and get results.
I mean, so I will say I'm a marketer, and I've built a Twilio app, but I definitely am not a coder by any means. And I can go in and build myself like a bunch of different apps with Twilio if I really wanted. I've built my own one of those systems with the Studio at like the visual workflow builder. I've built like an SMS survey. I did one of our like presentations for some customers during COVID, and I did like a little demo myself where I sent them a little survey over SMS, and they sent me back, what they thought of the presentation, and I built it all using my own Twilio account with this little visual workflow builder.
Wow.
So you just go in there, click like I want to do an SMS survey. It brings you up an example tree, and then you just add the language that you want to add in. Like you add the phone, you connect the phone number in that you want, that you've purchased from Twilio's console, and then connect it all up, and then away you go. It's pretty simple. Yeah.
So the next time I go to present, I can set this up and then go, hey guys, let me know what you think of my presentation. Just SMS me at 1-800-DAVE was awesome. And we can do like a survey. Is that basically what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Oh, and then I'll just rig it so everyone says yes anyway.
Yeah.
No, well, that's awesome. They're the sort of innovative, cool little quirky things that I think if it's that simple for marketers to be able to figure it out, then, the developers that are actually developing pretty serious solutions. We had David on before. He was talking about like what Woolworths was doing, what Domino's Pizza were doing. Like there's some serious enterprises also. Like I guess we shouldn't be remiss of 100% there's small development teams and marketers having fun with this, but it's also a very serious platform as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really exciting and serious things going on with Twilio. I mean, there's a department store in Japan that's sort of like Macy's here in the US. It's a really big department store. And if you've ever been shopping in Japan, it's like a next level experience, right? They, even before the pandemic, were working on like, how do we digitize the experience in our store and really bring data into the experience. And so like if you were let's say if you were in the shoe department, they would make you put your foot on this little digital scanner thing, and it would scan like the size and width and all of those things, and then bring up like an inventory system to say like, here are all your shoe options, which would be best for you, sort of situation when they were in the store. And then when COVID hit, they had to quickly pivot, right? Like almost every company, because everything just went automatically online. And so they built out this pretty exciting remote shopping experience. And think about how difficult it is for a department store. It's not as if it's just like buying one thing. You go to each different department and buy something totally different. Like in shoes, you buy shoes. In housewares, you buy like sheets. And, you can buy pans, and you can buy like rugs, and you can buy, things. So they kind of had to take this like complex department store experience and boil it down into an app. So in 3 months' time, with their development team, and they kind of just redeployed people that were working on this digital store experience because the store was closed, right? So they just redeployed them and put them in. And then they were able to take a couple of Twilio things like Conversations, which is a multi-channel, multi-party like app app that helps you. Well, it's actually an API that lets you talk to different participants over different channels, right? So I could be talking to you in SMS and you could be replying to me in WhatsApp. We'd still be able to connect the conversation together, and as an administrator, have a record of like who's saying what in the conversation. So that was something that was really integral to the experience. They needed a way to engage with users on multiple different channels. And then they built video inside that as well, which is super fascinating. So people in the store, like if sometimes an associate was still able to be in the store to show people some of the things that were on the shop floor, right? Like if you wanted to look at jewelry, it's kind of hard to buy jewelry online. So they were like, okay, so here's how big it is on my hand and here's how it looks on my skin tone and all these things. They were able to do it over video. So they built that all into the app as well. And, within 3 months, they were able to build out this pretty sophisticated experience and drop it in the app store for their customers. And they're still going today, and they're still building out a bunch of different, features and enhancements into the app. So it's just like I was saying earlier, you just kind of imagine what you can build and you can start to make it a reality.
That's so cool. I like the multi-channel, the multi-channel kind of communications. People communicate in any way that they want. And I laughed at the shoe thing because I went into a shoe store recently and I was like, I looked at the shoes and went, oh, I really like these shoes. Do you have them? And they go away and come back and go, no, I don't have that size. And then I grabbed another pair and I go, do you have these? And the guy came back like 3 minutes later. No, I do not have those. And I go, do you have these? Yeah. And he goes away. And I'm like, don't worry about it, man. This is way too difficult.
I know,
it's
really
12
silly,
minutes standing there for him just to keep going away. I was like, yeah, exactly. Reverse engineer this. Underneath each shoe, have a live feed of what stock of shoe, what size are you? 7.5, 8.5, 9.5. We got 3 in stock. I have a live feed of the shoe, so I'm not sitting there wasting all my time. What are you most excited about? What do you think? We've just gone through COVID. Twilio's just announced being 100% remote, or the option to be remote, which doesn't surprise me for a company that seems to have a very strong culture. What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? There's just so much going on, right? I think there's so much changing in our industry. For one, as a marketer, I think the cookies going away is just going to be a massive change for people in our industry, and I think people are going to have to get used to it really quickly. And I think the center of gravity about how you engage with your customers is going to have to shift, and it's going to shift throughout the customer journey into multiple different places. And so I think about, when you get onboarded onto a new app, think about the last app you downloaded, how many boxes did you have to fill in to get started to actually sign up to use their app? Did you just go, oh, this is so annoying, I don't want to go through all the boxes, and just ditch out of their app? Well, that marketer, whoever targeted you, just spent, I don't know, $400 trying to target you to get you on their app, and then you dropped out of the process because it was too hard to onboard. Well, that's a really super interesting thing that we can solve for at Twilio. There's a bunch of different things that we can solve for. We can solve for how do you get engaged over all of these different channels. We've got some new solutions that we're building, Twilio Engage, for those kinds of things, hyper personalization, but also just the way that you communicate, not just about the advertising and how you get retargeted. So I think there's a bunch of super interesting things going on at Twilio. And then on the remote work thing, I'm just excited. 70% of my team that works in my group is remote, and so we're just organizing an offsite. Actually, I was doing it right before, because that's a really important part of building a remote first culture, is when we do get together, we want to make sure that we're making those connections, because it's really hard to do that virtually. And so when we get together, what fun things are we going to do too, and how we're going to make sure that we've got all those connections and that they're real and we're able to work together as a team. So yeah, it's a bunch going on, but I'm super excited.
Cool answer. I think that it's not going to be called an offsite anymore. It might have to be called an onsite.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully we'll do some stuff on site. We've got a really fun new renovated office that I've yet to go into, so I'm excited to check it out too.
Well, there's lots going on. I have really appreciated your chat, and apologies for starting the conversation making fun of your accent. I wasn't really making fun of your accent. I was joking around that we both have accents, which is always fun. And I've appreciated every conversation I've had with Twilio people. You guys are really, you're really passionate about what it is that you do, which makes conversations really easy to have. And so it must be a really interesting company to work for, but also an interesting company to partner with and to learn from. So congrats on continuing to be that passionate, inquisitive person, and I wish you all the best for the future. And good luck with your passport. I don't know what you're going to do with it and where you're going to use it, but you know you've got it.
I do. It's good. I can go home. Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation as well. It was great to see you. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Vanessa.